Now for my finishing touches. I'm going to adjust the camera move to synchronize with the music, animate my character's symbolic objects, and finish all of the text titles. This is an overview of my process. For detailed demonstrations of the techniques, please watch and follow along with the specific skills videos. First, the camera move. I want to put a bit of a pause at the ground level when the first music track is fading into the second. I'll move my playhead to the right position just as the ground is at eye level. I want this to hold, so I'm going to right-click on the keyframe and select Toggle Hold Keyframe. I have to put another keyframe ahead of this one to get the camera moving again. This is just a repeat of the stop keyframe, but it will get things moving again. I want a faster movement after the pause, so I'll make another keyframe ahead of this one and get the camera past the dirt as the second song is all the way faded in. Let's convert these keyframes into easy out and easy in. To do that, I have to reset them as linear keyframes. Select them, right-click on one of them, and select Keyframe Interpolation. In the Keyframe Interpolation window, change the temporal interpolation from Bezier to linear. Convert the first keyframe to ease out by right-clicking, selecting Keyframe Assistant, Ease Out. Then right-click on the last one, select Keyframe Assistant, Ease In. These keyframes create a realistic ramping of speed that you might get with a dolly move. I'll adjust the spacing until I'm happy with the transition. Finally, I want to create a little push in at the end, at the cave. This can be done with the Z-axis on the dolly. I'll make a new keyframe after my descent. I'll zoom in so that the motion starts right after we finish the descent. For a nice ramp in speed, I'll make the first keyframe ease out, right-click on it, select Keyframe Assistant, Ease Out. I'll make a keyframe at the end. By default, it will be an easy ease keyframe, and I want to convert it to an ease in. Once again, to do that, right-click on it, go to Keyframe Interpolation, and in the Temporal Interpolation drop-down menu, change it to linear. Then to make this last keyframe ease in, right-click on it, select Keyframe Assistant, Ease In. Then I'll adjust the Z-axis at the end to zoom in past the cave. Now I have a movement that corresponds more with the music. Now I'll add some additional objects into the dark space between the ground and the cave. The two objects relate to the characters in the movie, a motif. One is a microphone representing the singer Dorothy Valens, played by Isabella Rossellini, and the other is a mask representing the villain, Frank Booth, played by Dennis Hopper. To add a little texture to my object, I applied a Luma matte with a layer of smoke. Then I applied a light layer to create a vignette of light around the object. To find out more about how to apply a Luma matte or a light layer, see the individual skill videos. I'll jump to where I animate this layer into my title sequence. With the camera move, the layer will appear to move on its own because we'll be passing a stationary object. But let's give it a bit of movement and some rotation too. I want this to appear to be floating up to the surface. A big theme of the film is the subconscious, floating up to the surface. So these objects are on their way up, another visual motif. As soon as you make something 3D, it ends up at the top, in the starting frame. Let's move the mic down to just below the frame as we pass the dirt. I will make a keyframe on the position line. Then I'll move the playhead forward and make another keyframe. First, I'll change the Z position so it appears to be moving away from us. Then I'll change the vertical Y position up and the X position horizontal so that its trajectory is slightly slanted. I'll scrub the playhead through to preview. Looks good. Now for rotation. A keyboard shortcut to bring up rotation is R. I'll change all the rotations, X, Y, Z, just by a few degrees. This will give it some dimension as it travels up, so it doesn't feel too flat. Z rotation will end at plus 20 degrees. I'll jump back to the starting keyframe with the keyframe arrow, and I'll make that one minus 20 degrees. Scrub the playhead through to preview. Looks good so far. I'll start the X rotation at minus 10 to 0 at the end. I'll start the Y rotation plus 10 to 0 at the end. Let's preview this in real time. Looks good. A slow drift up. I followed the same process for the mask as I did for the microphone. The mic and mask are floating up as we descend into the depths. Both the object and the animation speed are visual motifs for my characters and the theme of the movie. I'm thinking of my ideation process now. I sourced a lot of underwater images that I never ended up using. But look at this. These objects are moving like they're floating up to the surface from the seabed. Pretty cool how a small idea in the concept building phase can come through like this at the late stages. That's why you never throw anything out, and you keep looking at your mood board throughout your production phase. Now it's time to add all of my text. To make life easier for myself, I'm going to create a template and duplicate that layer and replace the text for each new title. That way, I'm not redoing everything every time I need to make a title. Click on the text tool in the toolbar and click anywhere into the composition window to create a new text layer. You can alter the text properties in the character window. I'll change the size so that the actor and crew names are smaller than the title of the movie that appears at the end of the title sequence. I'll keep the same typeface for aesthetic continuity. I'll move it to the top. This will remain a 2D layer so that it rests on top of my 3D layers. I'll type in David Lynch, the name of the director. Now, I could write this in manually, but here's a tip that could save you down the road. Now is the worst time to spell someone's name wrong. So pull up IMDb and copy and paste the key crew and actor names. I'll copy David Lynch into the first title. The white kind of disappears in the clouds, so let's correct that in the color menu. I'll select something dark in the blue range. I trimmed it down a bit. A 4-second title card is good. In general, you want to hold your text on screen for at least 3.5 to 5 seconds. There are exceptions to this, but I feel like that is a good pace. Enough time for the audience to read it and take in the image. Then I'll add a fade in and a fade out with keyframes on the opacity property line. I'll copy and paste this layer. This is my template. I'll copy and paste new layers, space them out, and replace the text by copying and pasting from IMDb. Before I get too far, I want to make sure my titles are centered. Use the Align menu to align vertically and horizontally in the frame. The titles don't work against the fence. It's too much, the image and the text. So I'll leave that part blank and move the additional titles into the dark, where there is not a lot to compete with the title. Blue doesn't work here, so let's try white. Now I'll add a fade out to my titles at the end of the main movie title. It has a Luma mat on it, so a nice slow fade out will look good. And here it is, my title sequence for Blue Velvet. Thanks for sticking with me. I've gone from concept to production to finishing animation, building up my concept in words, images, in Photoshop, and animating in 3D space in After Effects. How do you think you might be able to adapt these techniques or this process for your own title sequence? I look forward to seeing what you come up with.